Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to be talking about some 2025 healing predictions. What was 2024 all about? What did it create for 2025? And what are the healing predictions around the new paradigm? Watch this video. Beautiful souls, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, please click the little subscribe button and the bell to receive notifications when I release new videos. And if you've been with me for a while, thank you so much and welcome back. I am super dedicated to coming back to YouTube on a weekly basis, maybe even more. You know, with my new podcast, it's been tough to juggle it all, but we've got it set up now and we've got it ready to roll. So that's exciting. I want to dive in here. What is going on? 2024 was the year of authenticity. It was. This is what I mean. We were up against so many old patterns. I did a YouTube video and a podcast about shame coming up to be cleared, to be able to be more heart-centered. If we have any shame in the way of our heart, we cannot lead as heart-centered leaders. So 2025 is about you coming into your power, but I'm going to talk about why that's going to be difficult and why it's going to be amazing at the same time. So first thing is this. We have to understand that 2024 was about being faced with all these cycles of completion. And if you didn't finish a cycle or you feel like you might have failed that healing lesson, don't worry, because it will continue. And I'm going to give you tools of how to really make that happen and implement the learning, but also how to move forward into your bigger, brighter purpose here as a soul-centered leader, maybe in your family, maybe in your workplace, maybe in yourself. You have heard me talk a lot about coping mechanisms. We develop coping mechanisms when we're born into a society that is not like God, not like the universe. And what happens is, I always say this, we are born perfect for our purpose. My example is always my issue as a child was that I was so sensitive that I was feeling the acknowledge or the denied emotions and trauma in my own family and acting it out. So I got labeled as the, reactor. But really I was just the sensitive one who was dialing deeply into things that other people were not conscious of. Highly sensitive people have this ability to dial into the energy of what other people are not acknowledging. And we feel naturally gaslit. So when that happens, we are forced, because of survival, forced into denying these parts of ourselves, starting to doubt that we're right about what we feel or what we perceive because it's not being mirrored, right? This is something I talk about exponentially in my work. And we have to understand that because this society is not a healed society. It's a wounded society with people who have unhealed wounds, parents, authority figures. They're working on an old system that a lot of us who are sensitive are born into a new understanding, but that new understanding isn't being validated in the system. So we are confused. We feel like we're on the wrong planet. So we create these coping mechanisms to be able to deal with our environment that we need to survive. That is a very big piece of this puzzle to understand. Is it wasn't your fault that you couldn't stay true to your authentic self. I hear that a lot from people. It wasn't your fault. It was your only option. Your only option was to deny your massive insight and your deep emotional experiences, because if you would say them and they would be gaslit nonstop, it's too painful. So you decide to deny them in yourself. And what happens is we learn to cope by catering to those authority figures that have certain things they accept and don't accept. So we have to accept and not accept those parts of ourselves. And this is how our authentic self gets chipped away at. Not only that, but there's so many standards in societies and measures. If you don't look like this, if you don't think like this, if you don't do this or believe this, it's wrong. So you must be wrong. What I've learned in my journey is I wasn't wrong. Society wasn't up to scale. It wasn't aware enough. It wasn't emotionally intelligent, but I was. And what happens over time is we develop these emotional wounds that we then play out due to that emotional imprint of it's not safe to be in my power. It's not safe to be fully who I am because I'm not being mirrored. Really hear that. So the coping mechanisms can be people pleasing, perfectionism. It could be self-sabotage. It could be anything that you need to do. If you had a narcissistic parent and they're highly critical, you're going to criticize yourself first as a coping mechanism to not have to feel so harsh when others criticize you. You're going to sabotage yourself because you being in joy and you being shining was threatening. So you'll learn to have an upper limits issue and just survive down here, the middle way. Not too good, not too bad. You keep it safe. 2024 was about blasting that open. It may have felt to you like an inner experience of I need to do more, or who am I, or I can't handle this relationship pattern anymore. And many of us were faced with old family dynamics because the sensitive one, who's usually the scapegoat, is the one who will be the cycle breaker, but you have to have the courage to actually be who you truly are. Now, this is what's happening in 2025. In 2025, you're feeling vulnerability. Why is that? You will feel it. You haven't yet because it's not 2025. But what I always notice is the week before the new year, I start to feel the new energies of the new year. That's why I take a week or two off to integrate in my emotional realm so I can have the wisdom of how to explain it to people. That's how I work, is I'll feel everything emotionally. My body and my mind sort of creates this thing of like understanding the deep emotion that I've just had time to process. When we're in chaotic homes, we don't have time to process. So we don't get the wisdom. We don't have the clarity. We have confusion. And we search externally for answers, but the answers are here. And that's the whole point of 2025 is coming home to your power. Now, you're going to have some issues when you do that because you're going to fear that power, number one, because it was what got you in trouble, or it got you lacking survival, or it got you the unacceptance and the unacknowledgement from the parents that you needed. It didn't get you mirrored. It didn't get you seen. It didn't get you heard. It didn't get you anything. So you're afraid of that because you think that that's what was wrong. You had to make yourself wrong so you could survive what was wrong, because God forbid a 5-year-old is like, my parents are not capable. No, you started to depend on undependables, which is now a cycle. The only one that's actually dependable for you and your wisdom is you. You were born with an internal guidance system that guides you, but your internal guidance system was made wrong all the time by society that doesn't mirror your emotional intelligence or your emotional sensitivity, and by a family who is functioning on dysfunction and denial. So the truth seeker, the scapegoat, the sensitive one, has to come back into their truth by not denying it anymore. Emotional validation, right? But the vulnerability that you're feeling is scary because you're like, wait, I don't fully trust myself yet. I don't really know if this is safe. I'm going to give you a permission slip to think about maybe all the things that have ever been wrong is because you've thought you were wrong. When we start to realize that the way I feel and the issues I have and the things that are happening in my life is not because there's something wrong with me, it's because something went wrong for me, we can start to be a little more interested in what my inner guidance is saying. Now, many of you are going to DM me and say, Candace, I don't know what it's saying. I can't feel. I've decided to numb out. Great, that's fine. What you're going to do is you're going to start a daily practice. I wish I had my cute journal in here. But anyway, you're going to start a daily practice. Oh yeah, I have one of them. Cycle Breaker journal that I made. You're going to start a daily practice of emotionally regulating yourself and validating yourself by recording it and then reading it out loud to empower your truth. I want you to also start to notice cycles that you don't want. Start to notice that the more you realize it's not you that's the problem. Sure, you've created problems because of the problem that happened to you, but you're no longer going to do that because you don't want to sabotage. You want to heal. And so when you notice these patterns and you start to say, if I take myself, this is going to sound weird, if I take myself out of this and I say, what if it's not me that's wrong or did anything wrong? What else could be the wrong thing? This isn't about blame. This is about awareness. You're going to start to notice that the common denominator of a lot of issues in your life is the way you see yourself. And you can say, well, no one taught me how to see myself. That's what we're doing here. You have to understand, I was born perfect for my purpose. My authentic self, my inner guidance, my feelings were correct. They were made wrong by an incorrect system. It took me a long time in life to realize that being the scapegoat child, the highly sensitive child, everything was my fault, everything was because of me. Years later, after I stayed on my path and I lived my dreams and I created this business that I now get to serve those who are going through what I went through, what I see is my family dynamic is still not great. There's a lot of issues in their worlds. There's a lot of things going on in their day-to-day life. There's a lot of things that they deal with that I don't deal with because they have denied and I have faced it. So you'll notice, even if they look perfect, what's underneath the surface. Authenticity, telling the truth, being in your truth, and being okay with people that want to deny it, being okay with people that don't like it. As long as you stop denying it and start liking you, you're going to have a lot more energy to walk forward into your God-given, soul-centered purpose. So as you start to shed these coping mechanisms of protecting your heart will start to trust you to trust it. And when your heart, your inner child, starts to trust you because you've started to really understand and acknowledge these are coping mechanisms. Everything you do, ask yourself this: am I doing this to protect myself or express myself? 2025 is all about authentic, heartfelt expression of self so that you can be your heartfelt, authentic expression in the world. Everyone comes to me wanting their purpose. You can't live your true authentic purpose if you still don't think you're worthy. And your inner child doesn't believe that you're worthy if you're still hiding behind coping mechanisms to protect yourself from yourself. So I want you guys to think about this. I want you to think about, am I protecting or am I expressing? Am I protecting because I'm afraid that expressing will get me in trouble and I'm afraid of that and I'm afraid of being rejected? What you need to be most afraid of is rejecting yourself, which means rejecting your purpose. So I want to invite you guys to a few different things. First, to listen to my podcast. Also, to share this video with at least one person you think it could help. Also, check out my truth room. It is the room where we honor each other's truth. It is our healing vortex. It is the most satisfying place highly sensitive people, scapegoats, have ever found in what they've told me, because you can only heal when you're completely mirrored and validated and shared. And when you can say that stuff out loud and be who you are and be seen, accepted, understood immediately, you start to realize that you can do that to yourself. It's a permission slip to trust yourself. If you can't make the truth room, we've actually changed the time. It used to be Friday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern. Now it is Monday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern. So check that out. If not, check out Inner Work for a deep dive 8 weeks with me live. Those are the only live things I'm doing right now, other than one-on-one coaching. We also have a bunch of courses you should check out because they are on demand right now, which means a fraction of the price. Emotional rehab is the first place to start. Shadow work, deep dive. So emotional rehab, just so you know quickly, it's finding your truth, not in society, but in God. Then you can see how you can heal all these coping mechanisms. So you got to start in emotional rehab. Then you go to shadow work, which is doing the deep dive into mother wound, father wound, generational wound healing to find your golden shadow and your hidden shadow. You need that to find your truth, but then you got to do I Am Worthy course, which is the mother lode, the master class of finding your worth within. If you think you've already done a lot of inner work, you could jump to I Am Worthy. It is the mother lode. If you have some mother wound and father wound, jump into shadow work. If you don't know your true certain identity, emotional rehab. If you guys have any questions, please comment below. I love interacting with you. Please go say hi to me on Instagram at Candice Vandal. I am on there all day when I'm not in session. And what else can I say? I love you guys, and I can't wait to see you in 2025.